Welcome to the first ever point-and-click adventure month. The month where I go through the best the point-and-click genre has to offer. Today's episode, Sam and Max Hit the Road. The series started as a comic book in the late 80s, followed by Sam and Max Hit the Road, a point-and-click adventure game. The game popularized the series and gave way to a television show, a webcomic based on the original series, as well as a slew of other video games. The franchise focuses on the title characters of Sam and Max, who are a dog and a rabbit that own a private detective agency. They solve crimes that usually involve some sort of blatantly absurd premise or background. My goal today is to play through this puzzling entry and tell you what's the deal. The game opens with a mad scientist who has kidnapped a young woman. Now, normally when I say the game opens with, I'm talking about after the title screen. But in this case, I mean it in a much more literal sense. You boot up the game and you're immediately confronted by this guy. This is due to the fact that the game came out in the early 90s and is pretty primitive by today's standards. I'll go more in depth on this later, but for now I just want to mention it. Anyway, the mad scientist is about to fry his hostage when our heroes burst in like the Kool-Aid Man. Sam goes to untie the damsel while Max takes care of the scientist. That is until Max notices that the scientist is a robot, I guess? After this, the pair leaves the scene for yet another successful mission. After the opening credits wrap up, we're led into the duo's office, and after some minor domestic terrorism, they get a phone call. From here, the game lets you take control, and using some aggressive negotiation tactics, you're led to the circus. This is where you bump into famed country western star Conroy Bumpus and his muscle, Lee Harvey. After entering the carnival, the owners tell Sam and Max that their frozen Bigfoot named Bruno, as well as their giraffe-neck girl named Trixie, went missing. They employ Sam and Max to get to the bottom of the mystery and give them an all-day pass to the carnival to explore. Eventually, you get a flashlight and kill Max. You then come across Doug, the Mole Man. He gives the pair a crowbar so they can break into Trixie's trailer, and tells a story about how Trixie fell in love with Bruno and convinced the fire breather at the circus to set him free. This leads you to find a Gator Golf punch card in Trixie's trailer. Once Sam and Max get to the Gator Golf Emporium, they run into Conroy Bumpus again. He's saying something about not being able to find a Bigfoot, and then the detectives get into a fight with Lee Harvey after Max makes fun of Conroy's hair. The fight ends with Lee Harvey winning and Conroy hitting Max into a dunk tank. Sam eventually comes to Max's rescue with the power of fish. The pair realize that another Bigfoot was kept in this dunk tank that also disappeared, before a clue leads them to Washington State and the Mystery Vortex. Once you enter the Mystery Vortex, the pair discovers yet another Bigfoot was being kept here, before mysteriously disappearing. The clerk also mentions that Conroy stopped by recently, so yeah, there's definitely something going on there. Next, you have to mess around with these underground magnets, and through some science mumbo-jumbo that lets you enter the doors in this hallway. Behind one of the doors is Shavuul, the other mole man and the uncle of Doug. Shavuul mentions that he might be able to psychically locate Bruno if he had his mood ring, but he lost it in the world's largest ball of twine. So then you have to go there, and can I mention how much traveling Sam and Max are doing here? I mean, based on these locations, it's several hours of driving between each location, and they aren't doing this in the most time-efficient manner. Not to mention, the day pass at the carnival works for the whole game. So apparently all of this is meant to take place on the same day. I know this is a video game based on a comic book, and it's called Sam and Max Hit the Road, but still, this seems a bit excessive. Anyway, you get to the ball of twine and
It's places like this that make me wish I were Canadian.
Well, they've got one of these too, but half of it's French.
alright, that was pretty good. So you get Shavuul's mood ring back and bring it to him. He tells the duo that to find Bruno, they need to first get Bigfoot samples from the 3 locations that the Bigfoots disappeared from, and then they need to smear them at a place called Frog Rock. After this, they need to sprinkle special Mole Man powder, brought to you by Shavuul, on said rock. Yeah, so they do that, and it somehow works. After performing the ritual, a Mole Man alien comes and tells you to go to Bumpusville via movement of heavenly bodies. Once our intrepid heroes make it to Bumpusville, you discover 2 other things. One is that Conroy Bumpus is a little self-obsessed, and the other is that he has Bruno and Trixie.
I hate floor shows.
I remember my childhood in Brighton, when dear old Dad would bounce me on his knee.
Alright, so forgetting that we saw that, you have to distract Lee Harvey so that you can break into the security system using a VR game and kill a dragon that gives you a key in real life that lets you free Bruno and Trixie. At this point, I'm just gonna pretend that that made sense. Anyway, Max wants to take Bruno and Trixie back to the carnival so him and Sam can get paid, but they don't want to go back and Sam gets conflicted. Before Max can win Sam over to his side, Bruno and Trixie dip and go to a Bigfoot conference, I guess. Sam and Max follow them but can't get in since the event is exclusive to Bigfoots and their dates. Armed with this information, the pair embark on yet another mini-quest within this larger quest to assemble a Bigfoot costume. Using this, they are able to get into the conference. You eventually make it to a kitchen in the back where you once again run into who else but Conroy Bumpus, famed country western star. Conroy mistakes the two for a Bigfoot and holds them at gunpoint. This is until they reveal themselves. Conroy hatches an evil plan to disguise himself and Lee Harvey as a Bigfoot and infiltrate the conference. They go into a walk-in freezer to change, and Max locks the door.
That was fun.
Now future generations will be able to enjoy his atonal warbling.
So I guess that solves the problem of those two. The Bigfoot Elder comes to see what's going on, and Sam and Max tell him that they just stopped Conroy. That leads to them getting declared as honorary Yetis. The Bigfoot Elder and Bruno then take the two to the back to explain that Bigfoots are facing extinction, and these pillars somehow hold the key to saving them. I'm not a huge fan of this part. It feels tacked on at the end to extend the length artificially. Basically, you have to backtrack through the game and find 4 items that kind of match the totems, and then you get the ending. This has basically nothing to do with the plot so far, and just feels like the developers needed to fill a quota for length or something. Anyway, you get the 4 items, and the Bigfoot Elder makes a potion in a hot tub. What? He then informs you that the ritual requires a Bigfoot sacrifice to work, which doesn't make any sense since the whole point is to save the Bigfoots, but they just use Conroy and I guess the magic spell can't tell the difference because this works. The ritual causes trees to instantly sprout all over the US, probably causing numerous casualties and mass hysteria. I wonder if cats and dogs are living together. This gives the Bigfoots a new habitat. Sam and Max have final goodbyes with the Bigfoots and Trixie, then they realize they never got paid, so they bring Conroy's frozen body to the circus and the owners also can't tell the difference. Now they just need to get 2 more famed country western stars and their bodyguards named after presidential assassins dressed like Sasquatches in a frozen block of ice to replace the other 2 Bigfoots. No? That was the last needlessly complicated, unnecessary side quest? Okay, that's the end. This game is an interesting one to try to critique. It has been out for so many years that nearly everybody who has an opinion on it has already said it, but here goes. The game is alright. Really, there's some bad and some good. There are some pretty big problems that I ran into during the playthrough, mainly related to the game expecting you to know things that you couldn't possibly know. And I don't mean difficult puzzles. There are plenty of those, but those are fine. Difficult segments in a game are different from things that you as the player have no way of knowing. Like the multiple times where a room is 2 screens wide. This wouldn't be a problem, except that there is no indication that there is more to the room. No scroll or anything. It's not like they can't load the whole room at the same time, it's 2 screens. And even if they really can't, just put an arrow or something that shows that there's more to the room. The only way to know that there is more to the room is by clicking on the edge of the screen, but there's no indicator of which rooms have multiple parts and which ones don't. But that doesn't compare to my biggest problem, which is this. I was stuck here for so long because I couldn't figure out how to progress. Well, how do you progress from here? You go through the door. What, you don't see a door? That's because it's behind this wall. I cannot stress this too little. There's no indication that there's a door here unless you just click here for no reason. To make it even worse, it doesn't work if you use the interact button like you can with literally every other door in the game. And if you are on the other side of this same door, you can't use the walk feature. You have to use the interact button. This is made so confusing for no reason, and all just because they didn't want to show us this scene from a different angle so we can actually see the door. Something else to mention is that the game's celebrating its 30th anniversary this year, and it shows. Mainly with the fact that there isn't a title screen, a pause menu, settings, or a save feature. I understand that these features were by no means standard in the early 90s, but it's still worth mentioning. If you plan on playing through this game, you have to do it in one sitting, or leave the game on while you're not playing it. It's not that big of a problem considering the game is relatively short, but still something to note. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some good aspects of the game. The art is great, and the dialogue is incredibly witty and funny. Then again, the art and dialogue being highlights makes sense when you consider that this series started out as a comic. Maybe it was in the proper medium initially. So, would I recommend this game? Well, I don't know. Like I said, there are some confusing and poorly designed sections, and its age is definitely starting to show. Additionally, the point-and-click genre is not for everyone. However, there are plenty of great parts of the game as well. Most of the puzzles were perfectly reasonable, and actually make you feel pretty smart when you figure them out. So, as a whole, I would recommend this game for select audiences only. Thanks for watching this episode. If you enjoyed it, check out my channel for more. Also write what you think about Sam and Max in the comments. Leave a like if you want, and check out my other channel and Twitter page.